Amongst the sea of youngish male employees, our speaker stands out just a little bit with her blue eyes and blonde locks. Marissa Mayer is not the Googler that you would expect to see. Miss Mayer is anything but boring and is sure to charm you with her infatuation with the color purple, her robot pet dog Rover, or her laugh that is so widely appreciated that it has been made into a YouTube mashup and a ringtone. From her beginning in the Wisconsin city of 40,000, Miss Mayer has flourished in everything she approaches. In high school, she was a member of the debate team that won the state championship. She then did what most Googlers probably cannot say for themselves. She joined the high school cheerleading squad. Her debate team coach said she wanted to smash the image of the airhead cheerleader. She then helped the team cheer their way to state runner-up. It would appear that everything she participates in is bound to be a success. Google was no exception. She received her BS in Symbolic Systems, graduating with honors and MS in computer science from our neighbors at Stanford University. Prior to joining Google, Ms. Mayer worked at the UBS Research Lab in Zurich, Switzerland, and at the SRI International in Menlo Park. At 23, she was leaning towards teaching at Carnegie Mellon University. Luckily for Google, which at the time was just one of the many innumerable internet startups of its generation, she changed her mind and became roughly the 20th employee of Google and the first female engineer. Since then, her career has soared along with the success of the company. Newsweek named her one of the most powerful women of her generation. Vice President of Search Products and User Experience, she manages 150 product managers who direct the efforts of nearly 2,000 software engineers. Almost everything that goes on at Google, which is more valuable than Time Warner, Walt Disney, and the News Corporation combined, is overseen by Ms. Mayer. Her vast repertoire has included designing and developing Google's search interface, internationalizing the site to more than 100 languages, defining Google News, Gmail, and launching more than 100 features and products on Google.com. No matter how hard you try, Marissa Mayer cannot be stuffed into any one box or stereotype. As a former Google employee observed, she's a geek, but her clothes match. Today, she is leading the way for women and business people in general and setting high standards for the generation to come. When I told my friend that I was introducing Miss Mayer, she said, "Oh, don't mess up. She's like a big deal." Kayla, I couldn't have put it better myself. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce Miss Marissa Mayer.
Hello, Castilleja graduates. Congratulations. Each of you has done great things at an amazing school in order to be here today. And I'm honored and grateful to share this occasion with you along with your friends, teachers, and family. And I want to stop and ask all of you to give yourselves a big round of applause for all of your efforts and achievements. When I was graduating from high school, I had a plan. I knew where I was going to college, Stanford. I knew what I was going to major in, actually double major in, biology and chemistry. I knew what I wanted to be, a pediatric neurosurgeon who taught at a medical school and took exceptional clinical cases on the side. I knew I would probably live in Boston or Chicago. And I imagine that most of you, because of your ambition and your accomplishments to date, have your very own firm plan about what your life will be like. However, in my case, almost none of it actually happened. And it's not because I couldn't have made it happen. I could have. My plan didn't come to fruition because opportunity, experience, and observation caused me to change the plan and change it for the better. One of the most important skills in life, especially in terms of achieving real happiness and success, is knowing when and how to change your plans, and that you can. So I thought today I would share some of the anecdotes that caused me to change the course of my life, how I ended up a computer scientist instead of a doctor, how I ended up at Google, and I share my stories because I want you to know that if you have a plan, that changing it isn't always a bad thing. And for those of you who don't have a plan, I want you to know that it's totally okay for you to make it up as you go along. My story starts where all of you are today, summer after senior year of high school. I was off to science camp. Yes, I am that big of a geek. Seriously, you can't imagine how much fun the non-Newtonian fluids with cornstarch and water were. And probably you don't want to imagine how much fun they were. But anyway, the National Youth Science Camp was an amazing place, filled with amazing people. And the most amazing of them all, in my opinion, was Zune Wynn. Zune was a brilliant doctor and a postdoctorate student at Yale. And he gave us all brain teasers and puzzles that kept us riveted for hours. One afternoon, a group of us were going on and on about Zune's brilliance. And one of the counselors said, "You know, you have it all wrong. It's not what Zune knows, it's how Zune thinks." It wasn't the facts that Zune knew, but rather how he thought about problems. In fact, the most remarkable thing about Zune, other than the fact that his name is Zune, which makes anything you say about him sound like a Chinese proverb, was that you could put him in entirely new environments, present him with an entirely new problem, and within minutes he'd be asking the right questions and making the right observations. And that phrase always stuck with me. It's not what Zune knows, it's how Zune thinks. For instance, my freshman year at Stanford, I was going to be a doctor. So I spent my freshman year memorizing chemical equations, phyla of the animal kingdom, basic chemical reactions. I'm sure you pre-meds out there are really looking forward to your freshman year of bio and chemistry. And seriously, I was good at memorizing facts, but I had this nagging voice in my head that kept saying, it's not what Zune knows, it's how Zune thinks. Now the thing is, I had also just taken an introductory computer science course, and I loved it. I found it absolutely exhilarating. Every week was a new problem, a new way of thinking about a new problem. I loved the logic of it, the reasoning. Then one day, I was exploring the course catalog looking for classes, and I found a program called Symbolic Systems that blended philosophy, psychology, linguistics, and computer science into an interdisciplinary major. The study of how people reason. The study of how people reason. How better to think like Zune. And poof, my plan, my major, my passion all changed. Symbolic systems led me to artificial intelligence, then to a master's in computer science, which eventually led to Google. But through it all, the crucial thing was being open to change. It was scary to change my major to something I had never heard of, let alone try to explain to my father what I would do with a symbolic systems degree. And part of me still really did want to be a pediatric neurosurgeon. Part of me still does want to be a pediatric neurosurgeon. Hopefully it's not too late. But it's more important to follow your passion than it is to follow the plan. It's also important to surround yourself with people who will help you do just that. My freshman year at Stanford, I heard a great speech that talked about a theory referred to as allies versus adorers. The theory goes, at each of life's transition points, and you are all at one now, new friendships, new connections, and new social circles emerge. And in those moments, you can choose. You can choose to surround yourself with adorers, people who always tell you everything you do is great, or with allies, who aren't afraid to tell you you're making a mistake. Adorers are a lot more fun to be around, but you should surround yourselves with allies. Allies like Joe. Joe was my resident assistant my freshman year at college. He was a junior, a psychology major, brilliant, funny, friendly. His room was our big hangout. We'd talk, play video games, whatever. One night, I had a big exam the next day, and I just didn't want to study for it. So I went to Joe's room. We were laughing, joking. I was beating all the guys at Mortal Kombat. And then, all of a sudden, Joe said he wanted to talk to me for a minute. And he led me out into the hallway where no one could hear us. And he said, "Marissa, you're self-handicapping." I did mention he was a psych major. Self-handicapping, Joe explained, is when you think you won't do well on something, so you do something that gives you an excuse not to do well, ensuring, of course, then, that you, in fact, don't do well. I was embarrassed and angry, and I didn't like Joe very much in that moment, mainly because he was right. I trudged back upstairs, studied the rest of the night, and I got an A- on the exam and in the class. Surround yourself with allies like Joe, not adorers. Okay, so fast forwarding. I graduated from Stanford in 1999 with a master's in computer science. You all were in the 3rd grade at that time, and you might not remember that that was the height of the internet bubble. But when I graduated, I had 14 job offers. Yes, it was that long ago. And I like having I like having choices, but this was ridiculous. I couldn't make up my mind, so I gave myself a deadline of May 1st. And on the evening of April 31st, I got together with my economist friend, Andre, and we carefully weighed all 14 options.